to the both of us.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
incredible is the word I would be using for you too. I mean, yeah, I acknowledge and appreciate the ways that you show up and the ways that you want to serve and support others. I mean, the work that you're talking about, before we actually got on this recording, and
Hmm.
all of the work that you've been doing over the last few years has been so inspiring. And I think that's kind of how we, built this
Hmm.
relationship.
Yeah.
Of course, also
Of
sharing a
course.
birthday. Of course, also sharing a birthday.
Yeah.
But all of that to say that I'm really, really grateful for this friendship and the number of years that it has been
Hmm.
strengthened, getting to know one another,
Yeah.
but also, having our own individual journeys of uh, what this life has brought forth and how we've chosen to respond and grow through
Hmm.
experiences. I mean, anyone looking at your LinkedIn will know that many of the things that you as a human being have observed and seen
Hmm.
has been, a way for you to question
Right.
qualitatively how you can be of service in workplaces, with
Hmm.
families, with teams. This is all really, really
Yeah.
deep work. It's not easy.
No.
And, for someone like me, I also recognize that it takes uh, an individual's own inner work in order
Hmm.
to show up in those spaces,
Right.
working with somebody else, because otherwise it's just a mirror of reflection of who we
Hmm.
are,
Hmm.
building community, working with people that need the kind of tools that we both offer. So thank you for being the human being that you are, the work that you do. And thank you for another great opportunity to podcast with you. I'd
Hmm.
like to say hello to everyone watching in. I'm Caroline Cares Fernandez, and uh, I have been through my own journey of
Hmm.
inner work. A lot of experiences have uh, shown me that everything is a reflection of the inside. So being able
Hmm.
to ground in and learn the tools, but also do the work, the inner work is really
Hmm.
where it all begins, back to source. What am I currently doing? So my focus over the last 3 years now, since and during the pandemic,
Right.
has been a project called the Chrysalis. And Marilyn, if you recall, we did speak about this
Yeah.
on your last conference as well. So, what
Yeah.
is the Chrysalis? The Chrysalis, for me personally, is an energy. While it is a platform, it's also an energetic space. And I believe that all of us at an individual level, but also if we zoom out collectively, are always going through, these cycles of transformation.
Hmm.
And for anyone watching in, we might be thinking that, in one part of our life, we might really have mastered that part and we feel like, we're in the
Yeah.
zone, we're doing so well. And then
Yeah.
another part, we're like completely falling apart.
Yeah.
Everything is like, we don't know what's going on. Who are we?
Yeah.
And how do we respond and things like that? And that's okay because that's a part of the human condition, but it's also part of why we have come into
Hmm.
this form.
Right.
And so the chrysalis is really an amalgamation of these realizations in this lifetime of how, we go through cycles of going into the cocoon as a caterpillar, and, transforming, changing form into the butterfly that has to emerge from the cocoon.
Right.
And that energetic space is painful. It is humbling. It is awakening. And as you know, the
Hmm.
caterpillar contains these imaginal cells of the butterfly, which means that it already has encoded in it everything that it needs in order to move from mere survival to thriving.
Right.
And I thought this was a powerful analogy, a metaphor of
Mm-hmm.
the human experience, but also how do we take what we have inside of us, but also the tools in order to move to the next version, a higher version of who we are.
Mm-hmm.
So we launched the Chrysalis in Africa, specifically in Nigeria, for a community of youth. And at that time, during the pandemic, was, universally a
Yeah.
hard time for
Yeah.
everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Life as we knew it and the narrative, the human condition, um, was kind of a hard reflection for, what's going on in the world. And during that time, we curated, a safe space for our community. We provided different kinds of programs to help achieve the outcomes of economic empowerment and financial literacy, all built on blockchain technologies. And while that, was the central focus of that project within Nigeria, I started to zoom out and realize that, the people, our community was, even though they had a limited amount of money
Mm-hmm.
and resources, they were still ambitious and very inspired to do things to restore and heal the planet. And that
Mm-hmm.
really moved me because it made me realize that, if I were to compare it to many regions that I've lived in and worked
Yeah.
in, with more resource, with
Mm-hmm.
more of everything that
Right.
they could ever need and ask for, they're not as driven as the communities and the families that we started to,
Right.
build relationships with. Why? And more than why, the realization for me was, if these are people whose baseline is already higher in terms of realizing that we need to facilitate transformation and healing on a planetary level,
Mm-hmm.
it's up to us. We
Right.
have to participate. We
Right.
can't take a passive, backseat
Yeah.
where things are concerned. And that's when I realized that our mission within Chrysalis cannot just, be narrowed down and not niche down, but really narrowed down into one specific area. I realized that my focus had to move deeper into working with these communities, their needs, and what they needed,
Mm-hmm.
um, from the perspective of achieving their missions,
Right.
achieving their goals towards healing the planet,
Mm-hmm.
working together, helping youth, helping women's circles, and things like that, which for me personally aligned really well
Mm-hmm.
because of the work that I was already doing, but also because I believe that that was our, Chrysalis's journey as well. We were evolving, we were going deeper into how
Right.
we can serve and support. And all of that to say that while that was the starting point, we started to go deeper and, have these conversations
Right.
and kind of sit back and reflect on what the value proposition can be, at
Mm-hmm.
least in this phase.
Right.
So over the last um 18 months, our mission has gotten deeper into sustainability,
Mm-hmm.
specifically around a program that we launched, which you know about, and I think
Right.
I talked about before we went live in Jan or February, which was around the STEM program that
Mm-hmm.
we have running at the moment. It's live, and so there's an additional dimension to STEM that I
Mm-hmm.
want to kind of speak to. That's
Sure.
science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. But we've
Right.
also included arts, so
Yeah.
it's STEAM, and the the notion that especially with these kind of disciplines, the study of it, but also the integration
Mm-hmm.
needs to be one dimensional is actually just a myth. And I say that, if I were to give an example, I'd say that many people learn specific things, not in a linear way.
Right.
So, people might learn math through music, or they might learn about physics through dance. And so, that kind of research and those additional dimensions is really what we wanted to bring into the program, keeping in mind the context of many of our youth communities, many of our women's communities who are so creative over there in Africa
Right.
with respect to music and, dance and things like that. And that's what we did. So
Mhm.
the whole of, since last year, I personally had to dive into working with STEM experts who have been
Mhm.
doing this for young people, who have been doing this for women's communities, and really being able to find out where that, that sweet spot is,
Mhm.
as it relates to the intersection between what the community needs and not
Mhm.
just what they think they need, but
Yeah.
also, kind of elevating their
Yep.
own bar,
Mhm.
and how these experts can come in, and how does Chrysalis and our
Right.
team, on the ground, because we have people on the ground working with these communities, how do we all come together? And while it is very complex, and there are many layers to it, it's fascinating to see when you bring all these, moving parts together,
Yeah.
what kind of emerges beyond your expectations, beyond the design, beyond what, my own limited perception of this whole thing was
Right.
over a year ago. And having said that, we launched in July. It's been 5 weeks now. It's an 8-week program. It's a container. And we have two programs running. I want to just step back and acknowledge we have, the program has been approved in 5 countries in Nigeria. So we
Mhm.
have Nigeria in Africa. So we have Nigeria, we have Kenya, we have Ghana, we have
Mhm.
Uganda, and we have Mozambique. And
Mm.
like I said, so going into it, we kind of went in with our own expectations. And I was
Right.
wondering that we wanted, and we have a few mentors um, who are helping us, people uh, who have gone ahead and have been doing this work with other programs, and who
Right.
willingly jumped in to kind of give this shape and form more meaningfully and with depth and dimension.
Mhm.
And, personally, I was worried because we said we're gonna, like select 100 women to come into this program. And
Mhm.
these are the women who are going to go through this program. It's intensive. We got these
Yeah.
programs going on. And, the question that I posed, which was probably a limited question, was how are we going to find 100 women? And as we started to partner with our partners at the grassroots level in these 5 countries, we had a whopping 30,000 women who applied. And
Wow.
yeah, and that was like, wow, the universe saying, just keep going. You have a powerful mission.
Yeah.
And clearly we could not accommodate everyone
Yeah.
for this program. And that's kind of part of our learning through the
Yeah.
next wave and the next cycle. But the two programs that we have for our women right now are climate entrepreneurship and
Mhm.
innovation.
Mhm.
And, uh, these are things in line with what our observations were, how they want to start a business, in sustainability.
Right.
What does
Right.
it mean to think beyond, your limited mind and innovate
Yeah.
and be bold and take those steps and build relationships and all of these things? And these are young women between the ages of 17 to 25.
Mhm.
And it's been really rewarding. We've been getting some really great feedback, which I have kind of
Yeah.
been broadcasting on LinkedIn and everywhere else. But as I step back, the the thing that I am creating space for is how do we make this more accessible? Because there
Mhm.
are very baseline infrastructural challenges that we are meeting. For
Right.
example, on a day-to-day basis, things that most other countries take for granted is a
Right.
luxury like electricity
Right.
and Wi-Fi in the
Yeah.
internet.
Right.
So our students can't even join a session and be there and interact. And we take these most of these things for granted because we think everyone has it, but it's not
Right.
the case.
Yeah.
So this is a learning for us. And yeah, I mean, kind of painted a broad brushstroke here, but I'm really thankful for this year and, the revelations that have been coming through.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, this is what has been keeping my mind and my heart occupied, which I
Right.
am very, very grateful for.
Right. Right.
Um, yeah, I'm going to create some space and hear back from you before we shift focus to you. And
No,
thank you for listening.
I think it's an incredible program that you can put together and you'll be able to expand. It's sort of like creating, trying to create a possibilities group and expand your heart, your mind, and
Mm,
thinking bigger than what, because like you were saying, you went into the program with your own little mind about how you're going to do it. And you came out just like, wow, look at these people, what they've done. And they have very little resources, financial or any other resources. And they've been able to
yeah.
come on board and create whatever project or whatever thing they're doing. So I think sometimes, like you were saying, when people have a lot of money, they'll throw money at you, but don't, they want something out of it, but they're not sure themselves, right? And so the problem with that is that you don't get, I don't think you get a lot of really good results from that. But when you really want it, you're willing to dig for it. You're willing to expand and grow, right? But you have to want it. And I think that's the
Mm,
biggest thing, you know. Yeah, because when I was doing the kindness village that I started on Circle, was about gathering people together that I know and say, how can we collaborate? How can we grow together? Um, and then somebody else suggested, why don't you start a possibilities group? And I went,
mm,
okay, well, what does that look like? I have no idea. But maybe it's taking your lead and just saying, okay, let's bring it in here into the village. And maybe that's what it is kind of taking that kind of concept and just say, okay, possibilities. What do each of us want? And what are the big possibilities of it? I think so often when we start our own businesses, we tend to think really small. And then we grow past there, and then we're going, oh my God, now what do I do? Right. And so the idea
yeah.
is, thinking bigger, and like you experience that with the women that are in your STEAM program. And I'm so glad that you included art, because art is the creative aspect of coming together with different ideas and how do you put them together. So love that. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us more about how you came into this conceptual realization of the village and what has
Yeah.
kindness meant for you?
Yeah. Well, I started my business Hard at Work 21 years ago. And the idea was to introduce kindness into the workplace, make it a kinder. I don't know, I've had so many bad bosses by that point in time that I said, there's really something got to happen, change. And so I was volunteering with a group of teachers who turned random acts of violence into random acts of kindness. They were
Mm,
school teachers. They were really working with the community and the other teachers to get involved, get the kids involved in kindness. And that's what they were doing. And then one day I said, okay, I've worked with you a lot. I've learned a lot. I'm going to go into kindness into the workplace. And they said, oh, that is so needed. I'm like, okay. I wasn't really sure what I was doing, but I just I just talked about, different things and some ideas I had about workshops and what we could be talking about and teaching people and that type of thing. And so I started by doing kindness conferences, in person events. So I did the first two, 21 and 22, in-person conferences about kindness. And it was really very powerful to have other business leaders talk about how it's made a difference in their business. And so from that, it was
Mm.
easier to launch, more into, I did a lot of public speaking and that type of thing. So that's how I got started. And then after a while, people just kind of lost interest, or I lost interest because, so many people just said, well, what's kindness got to do with business? And I was just, are you serious?
Mm.
You know, and, but anyway, that's okay. I learned a lot. And what I came to learn after many years is that kindness has to start with us, um, with ourselves first. If we're not kind to ourselves, then we take it wherever, if we're unkind or we're not kind with ourselves, we take all of our crap, we go to the workplace, everybody else shows up at work with their crap, and you have a big puddle, a big mound of people that got their own issues going on, and nobody's
Mm.
working on their own issues, and they're not stopping to think, okay, am I being kind to myself? Am I being kind to anybody else? And so I think that's one of the lessons I learned about kindness in the workplace. It's still relevant, it's still important, but I think we have to stop and think, okay, how am I contributing to the problem? Even as an
Mm.
employee, like they might say, well, our boss is not kind. And that's okay. How are you contributing to that? Now, oh, well, it's not
Mm.
me, it's them. No, it's you. You are creating part of this. So what is it that you're contributing to this? So I think that was the biggest, and when you do that, confront people, or, you have to ask them, well, what are you doing about it? And so I think that's a hard one to swallow, hard pill to swallow. So anyway,
Yeah.
so the Kindness Village has moved on from that. Um, my idea of Kindness Village still is, I'm just getting started with it. And that is to build a smaller home community, an off-grid, smaller community, 3D printed house, container houses, um, maybe some prefab houses, but basically it's just a village of houses, and it'll have, everything else that maybe a mini town would have, and build it up like that. So somebody's just suggested a few times is that maybe you start with a retreat center and then build it out from there. You start with one place and you build it out. So I'm just still working on my ideas and putting them in paper. I do have a business plan, but I have to do the financial part of it. But anyway, so I'm going to be taking a course with a couple of guys that have done it already. They're in Canada, and they're now teaching other people how to go back to nature, how to have a homestead, how to do what they want to do. And so it's like an eco village kind of idea, I guess they're using it as that. So that's the Kindness Village for me. It's like taking an idea and building out the possibilities. Okay, what are possibilities to this? What else do you think we could do? What else can we add? And who wants to
Mm.
join the party of the village? Who wants to join the idea of it and putting it together? And most people, I would think, that want to say, I want to live there, kind
Yeah.
of thing. So the smaller homes, meaning that um, the homes are only going to be like the size of an apartment for a 1 bedroom, or maximum 2 bedroom homes. My
Mm.
original customer was the baby boomer, but a lot of baby boomers aren't selling their homes and downsizing, and they're keeping their big home. Um, but there are a lot of people that need housing too. So, there's that component to it. So that's what the Kindness
Mm.
Village, the big picture is. And then the community, the smaller community, is helping people take their idea and build out a possibility, like possibility group. Okay, community, how can we support you building out your possibility? So that's
Amazing.
that's it.
Amazing. Uh, That's a lot, and just, in my mind's eye, and thank you for sharing all of that. In my mind's eye, kind of integrating, but also, watching your own journey through this.
Hmm.
There's you said echo, and I thought of echo, like
Yeah.
ECHO echo,
Oh, okay.
because there are, fibers of uh, every project that reflect through every other project, because
Right.
that's really how life is. I mean,
Right.
you touch one thing and it has a ripple effect on other areas in one's life.
Yeah.
And that kind of reverberates because it's reflective. So in this current timeline of your life, and this big mission that you have, in order to build community,
Hmm.
in order to cultivate intentional living,
Hmm.
and also there is, while you've not really used the language of it, the sense of being able to nurture an environment of consciousness,
Hmm.
of what it
Yeah.
means to be off this crazy mad matrix that we've all been
Yeah.
caught up in.
Right.
And we've kind of given up our freedoms to these systems in a way where
Right.
we're hypnotized, we're mesmerized, and we don't even know that we are giving that
Yeah.
permission up. And through this mission that you have, it's so powerful because it kind of speaks to what's going on
Hmm.
everywhere globally at the moment. Because, we have a lot of, you spoke about toxic work cultures. And if I
Right.
were to take that context out of context and universalize it with what's going on, there's so much of illness in the world.
Right.
Illness from the perspective of, conflicting communities,
Right.
and people warring against one another for agendas that they haven't actually, you know, they're not a part of that design at all. And yet
Hmm.
they are, like you said, how are they the contributing factors and those components to those toxic cultures that's
Right.
happening right now, the
Right.
wars and what have you. And I'm kind of, interlacing your
Yeah.
own parallels into what's
Hmm.
happening globally, but also the solutioning from a perspective of what you're saying and what
Yeah.
you're speaking to and what you're expressing, by saying that we don't have to do that and we don't have to give up our freedoms and we don't have to
Yeah.
participate in a toxic, not just work culture, but, workplace culture, but a life and living
Right.
culture
Right.
that is not working. It's clearly
Hmm.
not working for us. So
Yeah.
how do we step back and we step out and, we raise the bar uh, into possibilities?
Right.
And we can do that together. We can do it in a healthy way. We
Right.
don't have to be complaining and whining and saying, they did the blame and the projection. But we
Right.
can step back because we are part of creatorship and we
Yeah.
have the resources within us. And you are powerfully speaking to that too, just like
Right.
I am.
Right.
And this is a reflection of what's inside of us. It's inside all of us. We all
Right.
have this creator component. Um, and by remembering these facets and these codes within us, we can start to pioneer. We can be
Yeah.
harbingers of better, of the good. And that's
Yeah.
really, it's so powerful, your mission. um what um what is this, because you're talking about a village which can be an energetic village, but it's also, from what you're sharing, it's
Yeah.
also on the material plane. You're talking about
Yeah.
homesteads and things like that. So, what does that, in your mind's eye, that vision of achieving that with other people like you, like minded and like hearted people like you, what
Like
would
you.
be the reflection? Like me, yes, that's why I was like, yes, I
Yeah.
can I can so relate to that vision. What would be if you were to language it, how would that reflect? How would that look in your heart, in your mind, that village come alive?
Yeah, it's not, it's people need to be kind and like-minded, I guess. Really, that's what we're creating is a like-minded community, people that believe in kindness or believe in consciousness.
Mm,
That there is the energetic force there, but the force is all of us, but it's also could be you might call it God or source, universe, whatever. We all know that it's there, it's present, because it's helping us create all that. So it's really just
Yeah.
whatever people really want it to be. But I have some ideas, and that's why I got the business plan done. But I'm willing to look at, okay, what do you want to create? How do you want it to look like? And I have my little painted map about this is going to go there, this is going to go there, but that may not work like that, right? So you
Yeah.
still have to have people that are there working with me. Like, so I guess with these guys, they are the planners of the guide. They say, okay, you need to, when you get the land, you need to have, you might have a land trust or with somebody else or other people, and they might want to buy into that, but they want to see, how am I going to get paid back? So these are the things that we could do to get started now. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it could be the retreat center, it could be the entrepreneur center, it could be whatever it is you want to make out of it, right? And then from there, you expand and grow, and then you add housing and you add different services. You have a community center where you can gather and have, you know, not everybody's house will be individually. They'll have their own kitchen, the bathroom, and all the other stuff. But you still want a community center so other people could come out and socialize and,
Yeah.
be with each other, because even though we all socialize with each other on social, we're not really connected,
Yeah.
unless we
Mm-hmm.
have, like, you and I have these conversations often. So it's not
Yeah.
like we're just once a year, once a year event. So I think I'm
Mm-hmm.
really just looking for more people that are more like-minded, like the idea. I know there's lots of people out there that are, thinking about it or like to do it, but probably don't know how to go about it. I
I
just
know them too. And
yeah.
I'm gonna follow up with you and connect you with a few of them.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Mhm.
anybody that's interested, it'll be a business membership group. It won't be a nonprofit, quote unquote, or a HOA. I don't want an HOA, but it'd be
Mm.
a different model, a new
Mm.
different model. But yeah,
Wow.
I think it'll be very exciting. I'm looking forward
Yeah.
to it. And
Yeah.
I know that you'll want to say, I want that house there. I'm going to live there with Mary Lynn.
For sure. For
Yeah,
sure. It sounds very exciting, but it's on a deeper level, I think there is a lot of depth in
yeah,
terms of, the mission and the core values,
yeah,
and it's just knowing the person that you are. And like I said, you can hold me to this because I do know people who have been singing the same song.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I think it might be meaningful to connect you with them.
yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
this is not the end conversation for us. We've
No, no,
been
no.
going through these cycles.
Yeah.
But I'm really happy that we did have this conversation on this
Hmm.
podcast. It'd be interesting in the next couple of months to circle back
Yeah,
online, even though we do that offline, but really
yeah,
circle back and hold ourselves accountable for what we said we'd do.
yeah. Right.
Uh, and to also share with our
Yeah,
communities and with our networks how we're showing up
yeah,
and
yeah,
what that means.
yeah, yeah. I'd love to hear how your STEAM programs are
Program.
going, and all
Hmm.
that stuff. And then, I know you already said you had 5 in Africa, but maybe we can get more
Yeah.
in other countries.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, this is where
See,
the
think bigger.
possibility. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea, actually. I'm gonna definitely anchor into that. I want to thank you for your time today. I think there's a lot that's come up,
Hmm.
and I'm really hoping that apart from the both of us,
Yeah.
that our audiences chiming in, will resonate with more than one dimension of this
Right.
conversation.
Right.
And I look forward to the next one with you for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you very much. And
Thank
thank you
you.
for your generous words with me. Thank you. I so
It comes
appreciate
from the
you.
heart.
You know,
All
so I
meaningful.
appreciate you and your time and your insights, and like, oh, what's she doing now?